What were some of your inspirations into getting into broadcasting?
Well, I was a radio guy for 20 years in this town in LA. I worked for KNX 1070 News Radio and several other radio stations. I was a news guy and I was a street reporter and a news anchor. So I would go out and cover stories. I would do the anchor of the news in studio. Um, but what inspired me to do that, I'm not really sure. My wife and I got married back in 1988. We traveled around the world, and we quit our jobs and dropped everything and just
Wow.
left for 8 months, almost a year. And lying on a beach in Fiji or something, talking about what we wanted to do with our lives going
Yeah.
forward. We knew we wanted to have a family. We knew LA was home and was what we were going to do. So I kind of, had done acting work in Los Angeles. I was had some, had some pretty good success, made some money, had some fun, but it wasn't really something I don't know. I was a political science major in college, and so I was very politically minded and international relations. And after traveling around the world and seeing the world, it just seemed like journalism seemed like a good call for me. So I
Yeah.
figured broadcast journalism would be a good thing. And I didn't really think of anything but actually the journalism part of it. I didn't think of, oh, I'm going to be on TV or I'm going
Yeah.
to be on the radio. I thought of just mainly writing. And that's how I
Wow.
got broke into broadcasting was as a writer. And then my news director one day came and he said, "Kid, you got some amazing pipes. You ever thought about being on the air?" And I'm like, "Sure,
Yeah.
let's do it." And they put me on the air, and I guess the rest is history. So I never really thought about that. Certainly never thought about being a PA announcer for a baseball team or anybody else. But
Right.
it just kind of happened that way. And that's the way life is. You might start on one path, take a few steps down what you think is your path, and
Yeah.
then it might branch off into something completely different that you didn't realize. But if you stay open to it and stay
Yeah.
ready, you can get somewhere.
That's definitely a great lesson for, I guess, anybody going through anything in life, right? Trying to figure out their way, and just being open to opportunities. I think that's an amazing lesson right there.
Yeah, and be willing to start, at the bottom.
Right.
I went to work for a radio station called KFWB, which was a big news station in Los Angeles at the time. And I was what they called an editorial assistant, which meant a gopher basically. So I would, do whatever. And I was getting paid like, I don't know, $6 an hour or something crazy like that. And but I didn't care. I was in the mix, and I fell in love with the immediacy and the visceral feeling of live radio, and when stories would break, and how it was so real, and it wasn't a bunch of bull like I felt acting was sometimes seemed just a bunch of pretend. But
Yeah.
this was real, so I liked that.
Yeah.